Good Thursday morning, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, voice you know with the news you trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Dusty Sonnenberg. Well, cloudy skies outside this morning, 37 degrees, but it looks like we're going to continue a gradual warm-up and then rain in the forecast later tomorrow. Well, I hope everyone had an enjoyable time celebrating Christmas with family and friends the last 2 days, and now it's a mad dash to the finish and New Year's. Let's check in now on our weekly update from the Ohio Soybean Council. I'm visiting today with Steve Reinhardt. Steve currently serving as chairman of the United Soybean Board. A lot of times we hear talk, at least domestically, about sustainability and producing any of our commodities, but in particular soybeans more sustainable. How much emphasis is there in China on the sustainability of our beans?
Sure. So we stress that quite a bit. We have the soy sustainability protocol that we go through USEC, and we think we can accommodate the European Commission on deforestation regulations today, the way it stands, and we're one of the only countries in the world that can probably do that. So we want to continue to stress that point. Sustainability is something that the Chinese government talks, quite a bit about, and even the people talk about, sustainability. So hopefully we can see that, we have that kind of a niche in that area where we don't have the deforestation issues here that some places around the world do have, and we can continue we can continue to embark on that advantage by continuing to use like Farmers for Soil Health and some of those other sustainability programs as well.
When it comes to trade all around the world, obviously there's a lot of work being done on multiple fronts in India, in Africa, in China, different places to create more trade opportunities. But China is still the 900-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to just the sheer volume of exports that they consume. How do you see that playing out in the future as far as maybe a balance with all that?
Well, that's one of the things. We were actually there when Donald Trump won the election, and so that's one of the things, we're hoping that maybe the phase one trade agreement, that he instituted the last time can be a starting point for discussions. As we continue to look around the world, China is still our biggest customer when it comes to exports of soybeans. We are trying to get a few, shipments into India, but at this time they're pretty small. India has surpassed China as being a population center of the world, so that's going to continue to be a market that we want to definitely watch closely and make sure we're participating in. And then again, we look at Africa and some of the countries in that area as they continue to modernize and develop those economies. Those are also going to be places that we want to make sure that we can go in and help with their poultry and livestock sectors and make sure that we can be a partner to them as well.
My guest again today has been Steve Reinhardt. Steve is a farmer just outside Bucyrus, Ohio, also currently serving as chairman of the United Soybean Board. And this update brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Well, let's take a look now at your Thursday morning weather forecast brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. Clouds are one part of the forecast, temperatures are the other, and hey, that's where I have some good news for you. Well above normal temperatures for this time of year, clouds building and eventually some rain working its way into the Buckeye State. Might see a slightly better round of moisture from I-70 southward. Once again, not looking at any more than a few hundredths to a tenth or two, but it's damp. Northern parts of Ohio, just clouds, nothing else. We may not see a lot of sunshine, but there's at least a chance for a few breaks in the clouds. Then on Friday, we start with that same kind of setup before thickening clouds really come in the afternoon. By afternoon, evening, we see rain showers developing over western and southern parts of the state, continuing to rotate through as we move into early Saturday. We see more rain Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, overnight into Sunday, before colder air tries to push in for late Sunday into Monday. All in, all done, I think we have to say at least a quarter to 3/4 of an inch of rain combined out of that late Friday through the weekend time frame. Could be seeing slightly higher amounts. Then slightly cooler to start next week, but dry for Monday and early Tuesday. Tuesday night into Wednesday, New Year's Eve into New Year's Day. Significant area of low pressure passing by to our south. Cold air coming in from the north. That means we could see accumulating snow to kick off the new year. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more after this.
Since 1926, Nationwide has been rooted in agriculture. Founded as the Farm Bureau Mutual Automobile Insurance Company with a mission to protect farmers and their communities, we honor our legacy by offering solutions that evolve with the complex needs of today's farms. As the leading insurer of America's farms and trusted by 8 farm bureaus for 100 years and counting, Nationwide is on your side. Number 1 insurer based on 2023 direct written premium per AM Best. Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
I am visiting today with Alan Sundemeyer. And Alan, we've got a interesting program coming up. Not coming up till February, but registration is open now. It's part of the Conservation Action Project programming that you do. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, we typically try to have some outreach. We have activities, and Conservation Action Project's been around a while. I guess it goes back to Bill Roars in Defiance County over 30 years ago. So part of what we do is look at innovative programming and conservation practices, and to help get the outreach in that, we have a meeting, and this year it's going to be on February 12th, and that starts at 9 o'clock to about 2:30. And we're the 7 counties in the Maumee River Basin, so a central area to that is our Northwest State Community College. So that's there by Archbold and Route 34. So that seems to be a nice, convenient place to hold it, and the community college is very supportive of us doing things there.
Outstanding. Well, it looks like you've got a great lineup of speakers. Why don't you run through who's going to be speaking, both in the morning and in the afternoon?
Well, this year, early on as we looked at things, I saw we were getting a lot of interest in on-farm research, and I said, I don't know if I can handle all this, Dusty. How sometimes you predict you're going to be overwhelmed. So we hired Russ Rice. He's retired from Nutrien there in Hamler, and he's decided to help us out. So he does a lot of cover crop work, and he'll be starting us off with cover crop observations, some good and bad, that we've seen this year, and things he's got for recommendations that way. After that, Neil Badenhop, he's recently retired from the Valent Company, and he's been advising farmers for over 32 years. I think he's got a lot of good advice. He's seen things and helped farmers become successful, in conservation practices and herbicide chemistries. So he's got a lot to share from his career that way too.
From the industry standpoint, both Russ and Neil, probably two of the best in the business when it comes to really being promoters on an industry side of the importance of cover crops and conservation practices. It'll be a loss not having them in industry, and yet maybe a plus that they can do a little bit more of this on their retired side.
Yeah, we're not going to let them just fade away, are we?
That's right.
Next, then, Leon Kloppenstein, he's a farmer in Paulding County. Real interesting operation. He's trying all kinds of cutting-edge things, looking at good cover crop mixes and using a lot of biological testing. So he's got a lot to share of his successes he's had. That Paulding County soil is pretty tough to work with, and Leon has really tried to improve his soil structure and his soil biology. So he's going to tell us about his soil health journey. And I think, we got a lot to learn practically from someone that's met those challenges. Also, then we'll have Rachel Cochran from the Paulding County Extension Office. She's an OSU Extension Water Quality Associate. And Greg Labarge and the OSU team there have helped CAP do some nitrogen rate trials. So we'll have a report. It's always a challenge, when the high cost of nitrogen on corn production is, can you really cut back much and maintain economic yields? And that's what we're going to talk about with Rachel there. Then right before lunch, we have Laura Decker. She's the president of Prolific Earth Sciences. And I kind of ran across this about a year ago, and it's a real neat instrument for, a small price, about $10 a sample. You can check your bacteria, fungus, and microbiomass levels in your soil. Now, it kind of seems, that shouldn't be that cheap, and it may not be quite accurate as a lab like a PLFA or a B crop test, but it sure gives a good indication. And CAP saw this as a way, to get some feedback on our healthy soils, and we've done probably over 100 tests with this microbiometer. So I think the farmers need to hear about this instrument, how it can help them, and it's just basically using your cell phone, so you don't have to invest much in it. And I think, it gives you some good feedback that way.
Interesting. Yeah, sounds like a real cost-effective way to process a lot of information effectively.
So many of these labs are expensive. They take time to get results back. This takes only 20 minutes. You do a little mixing yourself, and I think there's a future in something like that. So then we'll provide the lunch. We've got supporters that can help with this cost, so there's no cost to come and you get a free lunch. Can't beat that, right?
Absolutely.
So after lunch, I'll give a report. H2 Ohio has been supporting us, looking at phosphorus, farmer phosphorus plots that we have with H2 Ohio support, looking at long-term, like 5 years with no phosphorus fertilizer applied compared to normal practice. So we'll have a report on our Northwest Ohio plots looking at the phosphorus levels. And is that economic or not to just cut out your phosphorus? And so far it's worked. After that, we have Ryan Gibbs. He's from Hopkinton, Iowa. They're in eastern Iowa. And he was featured about a year ago in No-Till Farmer magazine. In an article he had inoculating no-till soils with compost extract. Now Ryan has a business. He sells cover crop seed, and this compost extract is looking at bringing biological life back to your soil and using a compost tea that comes out of that compost and applying it to your soil and your seed or 2x2. And he's got some machinery he's used now to make this scale up and use on a lot of acres. So, we're going to be hearing from a farmer that's done it for a few years of how this is another source of a biological that you can do yourself, kind of a homegrown biological. And I think that's interesting that, we can look at a lot of products on the shelf. Some farmers are trying those and having mixed results. This is something you can do yourself and not have a lot of investment in it. And, I think there might be a future there. So we got to hear from someone that's been doing that. So to round things out, we're going to talk about the tests we did. We did have a farmer, Todd Smith, there by Defiance. He worked with Gary Pinnell at Farmer's Elevator, and he did that Johnson Sioux compost extract. So we had some of that in some replicated plots around Northwest Ohio. So we're going to talk about those plot results and kind of look to the future. What can we do here in Northwest Ohio if this is something up and coming? Can we do it ourselves? And, Todd and others may be able to share some of those results too then.
Great information. Again, they'd like registration by February the 7th. The event itself happens on February the 12th from 9 to 2:30 at Northwest State Community College. Again, that website, CAP of Ohio, that's CAP, capofohio.org. Alan, thanks so much for your time, for all the work you've done throughout the year, but also for putting this program together.
Well, thank you very much.
It's time now for your morning Louis Dreyfus grain analysis, brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Let's check in with Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished a shortened trading session on Tuesday, Christmas Eve, with a mixed outcome. On the wheat, we were down anywhere from 5 to 6 cents across Chicago, KC, and Minneapolis markets. Corn was fractionally mixed to a little bit higher. We'll call it 1/4 to 1 higher. And then the soybeans gained back about half of what they lost on Monday. Let's be honest, it was a low-volume trading affair as everybody was out the door. One of the import stories that we did hear, Russia is seeking a larger share of China grain imports. What does that mean? Well, first of all, it means that Russia is going to probably try and undercut a large chunk of what we're seeing here in the United States or even in Brazil, especially on the wheat side. Russian FOB wheat up $2 a metric ton on Tuesday headed into the holidays, but Paris wheat futures were down a little bit as well. Russia announced that it will target China for additional ag commodity exports, including both grains and oil seeds. China's demand for corn and wheat has been slowing all year. The crop year to date having wheat imports at only 3.3 million metric tons. But there is a chase on now for Russia to garner a greater share of China's grain import trade for the years ahead. A lot of outlets are seeing Chinese wheat and corn, maybe even soy imports as substantially sagging in the first half of 2025 based on low domestic prices and a need to prop up domestic farmers struggling with red margins. The Brazilian real on Tuesday closing in on a record low. Values hit down to 6.2 to 1 early in the morning. We need to watch what happens as we get into trade again Thursday, Friday. Well, the Brazilian real may be trading even outside of Christmas, so we'll need to watch that. Once again, as we kind of highlighted late last week, large crop in South America, it's going to go cheap anyway, and there's bang for buck if the real continues to sink to record lows. Again, grain markets are not going to open up again until Thursday morning at 9:30 Eastern Time. Wishing you the merriest of Christmases and merriest of Boxing Days as well. I'm Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan. Let's take a look back now at how your markets closed on Tuesday, brought to us by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. March corn closed up 3/4 of a penny. March soybeans up 4 1/4, but wheat for March down 5 1/2. This is the Ohio AgNet.